It was just supposed to be a quick stop at my friend Jason's place for a weekend visit. I hadn't seen him in months, and after a long drive, all I wanted to do was get settled in, take a shower, and relax. But the moment I stepped into the bathroom, I was hit with the last thing I expected. As the warm water hit my skin, I felt my muscles relax, the exhaustion from the drive starting to fade. But then, just as I was about to grab the shampoo, I heard the door creak open. "Dude, I think the hot water's out," Jason's voice echoed through the bathroom door, but it wasn't Jason who stepped in. It was Ethan, Jason's younger brother. I froze, my eyes locking on him. He was standing there in the doorway, eyes wide, a sheepish smile tugging at his lips. He was holding a towel in one hand, clearly not expecting to walk in on anyone, but there he was, standing in the bathroom with me, both of us now far too close for comfort. Sorry, Ethan stammered, looking away, clearly flustered, but then, almost as if it were normal, he stepped forward. "I can just jump in with you if you don't mind?" My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to say. Was this an accident? Was it a joke? Or was Ethan being serious? I couldn't even process what was happening, but before I could answer, he was already stepping into the shower, closing the door behind him. We were now in there, together, too close for comfort, and too much for me to handle. My name is Matt, and I'm not usually the type to find myself in awkward situations. I like to keep things simple: work, friends, weekends spent catching up with the few people I actually trust. So when Jason invited me to his place for a weekend visit, I thought it would be just like any other trip. It wasn't supposed to be complicated. I've known Jason for years. We've been friends since college, and while we've had our fair share of crazy moments, nothing ever felt out of place. But then there was Ethan, Jason's younger brother. I hadn't seen him much over the years, mostly because he was away at school or traveling, but when I did see him, it was always in passing. He was a couple of years younger than me, but I never thought much of him. He was just Jason's brother, a guy who I barely knew. But now, here we were, together in a bathroom, and things were anything but casual. When Ethan stepped into the shower, I couldn't even look at him. I mean, how was I supposed to react? I didn't know if this was an innocent mistake or if he was really trying something with me. And the fact that I had never even considered the possibility of this situation made it all the more complicated. I tried to convince myself that this was no big deal. I mean, we were just in a shower together, right? No harm in that. Except it wasn't just the shower anymore. It was the way Ethan moved, the way he didn't seem uncomfortable at all. I couldn't help but notice the closeness, the way our bodies were now sharing the same space. I felt heat rise to my face, and not from the water. "What are you doing?" I finally asked, trying to act like this was just some casual slip-up. But my voice was shaky, betraying the confusion swirling in my chest. Ethan chuckled lightly, clearly unfazed by the awkwardness. "It's not a big deal, Matt. I mean, we're both guys, right? It's just a shower." His tone was playful, but there was something else in it, a confidence that made my stomach flip. "Yeah, but," I trailed off, unsure of what I wanted to say. "You're Jason's brother. This isn't normal." He shrugged, still smiling. "Why not? You're not shy, are you?" His gaze lingered on me for a second longer than I was comfortable with, and I felt my body tense up. I tried to laugh it off, but my heart was racing. Was this a joke? Was he being serious? I had no idea, but I knew one thing for sure: this was uncomfortable in a way I hadn't experienced before. And as much as I wanted to ignore it, I couldn't. Ethan moved closer to me, clearly unfazed by the situation. He grabbed the shampoo and began lathering it in his hair. The way he did it felt casual, too casual for someone who was supposed to be just sharing a shower with me. I could feel the tension in my body, every muscle screaming for me to step back, but I couldn't. I was frozen. I wanted to say something. Tell him to get out, to make him realize how weird this was, but then I felt it, his eyes on me. They weren't judgmental or even teasing, they were just curious. Like he was studying me, waiting for me to make the next move. I wanted to scream at myself for feeling so nervous, but I couldn't help it. Ethan had this effect on me that I hadn't anticipated. "You know, Matt," Ethan said casually, his eyes still on mine, "I've always thought you were cool. Jason talks about you a lot. I never really got a chance to know you, but now, I kinda like hanging out." I didn't know what to say to that. Was this just his way of trying to break the ice, or was there something more? I wanted to ask, but the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I just nodded, trying to keep my cool. It was then that I noticed it, the way he was standing so close to me, the space between us too minimal for comfort. My breath caught as his arm brushed against mine, and I could feel the heat radiating from him. The moment felt charged, but I didn't know how to navigate it. The reality was hitting me. This wasn't just a friendly interaction. Something was changing, and it wasn't something I was prepared for. What if I told you I've wanted to do this for a while? Ethan's voice was low, almost a whisper, and his words hit me like a punch in the gut. My heart skipped a beat. He wasn't just messing around. He was serious. I wanted to back away. I wanted to tell him it was a mistake. But I couldn't move. Wanted to do what? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan turned to face me completely now, his body inches from mine. Wanted to see what would happen if we let go of all the boundaries, Matt. Wanted to see if there's something between us. I've always wondered. My pulse raced as I realized that this wasn't just about the shower anymore. It wasn't about fixing a simple moment of discomfort. This was about something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something I wasn't ready to confront, but knew I couldn't walk away from. As I stood there, frozen in the water, Ethan's words hung in the air like a challenge I wasn't sure I was ready to accept. But as I looked into his eyes, I realized I wasn't as certain about walking away as I thought. The air in the shower felt thick, heavy with unspoken words and emotions that neither of us seemed willing to address directly. I stood there, still, my mind racing faster than I could process. I had spent the past few minutes trying to convince myself this was nothing. That Ethan was just being playful, messing around, and that I had nothing to worry about. But then his words hit me like a freight train. I've wanted to do this for a while, he'd said. Those words were still echoing in my head. I didn't know what to make of them. Did he mean what I thought he meant? Or was it just a joke? He was Jason's younger brother, after all. He was supposed to be off-limits, untouchable, just a kid I didn't know well enough to have this kind of complicated interaction with. And yet here we were, standing in a shower together, with everything between us slowly changing. I tried to turn away, but it felt impossible. Ethan was still standing close, just a few inches away, his eyes never leaving mine. His presence was overwhelming. Every time I tried to focus on something else, like the hot water or the steam filling the room, it didn't work. I kept coming back to him, his body language, his words, and that damn question. The question that hung between us like an invitation I wasn't sure I was ready to accept. Are you serious? I finally managed to ask, my voice low, uncertain. My hands were shaking slightly, but I didn't know whether it was from the heat of the shower or the tension building between us. Maybe it was both. Ethan tilted his head, his lips curling into a small, almost mischievous smile. You don't think I am? He asked, his voice teasing yet somehow sincere. I felt my breath catch. I didn't know how to respond. I was caught between wanting to step back, to pretend like nothing had happened, and this pull in me that was too strong to ignore. Was I overthinking it? Or was Ethan really making a move on me? Was I reading too much into this, or had he intentionally stepped into the shower with me for something more? His fingers brushed against my arm, and I instantly tensed. The light touch sent a jolt through me. I knew what I was feeling, my heart rate was faster than usual, my chest tight, my breathing shallow, but I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't just the touch. It was everything. The fact that Ethan was so close, the way he was looking at me, the air between us thick with something neither of us had named yet. It was intoxicating, but terrifying at the same time. You're not gonna push me away, are you? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper now. There was something in his eyes, vulnerability, hope, maybe even a bit of fear, that made me pause. I had to be careful. I had to be smart. This wasn't just some casual thing. This was my best friend's brother. If anything went wrong, if Jason found out, what would happen? What was I getting myself into? But I couldn't shake the pull I felt toward him. He was standing there, his body warm against mine, his presence impossible to ignore. And the worst part? I didn't want to ignore it. I wanted to lean into it, to explore what this feeling meant, even though I knew it wasn't right. The weight of the situation hung heavily over me, and I wasn't sure if I could get out of it without making a choice. I don't know what this is, I finally said, my voice raw, unsure. But I can't pretend that I'm not feeling something. I looked away for a moment, trying to steady myself. This is crazy, Ethan. You're Jason's brother. We can't. Ethan stepped closer, his hand now resting lightly on my shoulder, his touch warm and comforting in the chaos of my mind. I don't want to hurt you, Matt, he said softly. I don't want to keep pretending this isn't real. I've felt this way about you for a long time. But I don't want to pressure you. I just need to know if you feel it too. His words hit me like a wave, and for a moment, I felt like I couldn't breathe. He'd been feeling this way for a long time? And I didn't even know how to process it. I had spent so long keeping everything in check, avoiding any kind of emotional mess, especially when it came to Ethan. But now, here we were, both standing in the middle of this mess, with everything laid out between us. I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time, and I realized that maybe I had been blind. Maybe, all this time, I had been shutting out a part of myself, a part of me that was curious, that felt something I hadn't been able to admit. Maybe I'd been too afraid to even acknowledge it. I don't know what to say, I confessed, my voice low, honest. I don't know what's going on, or what this means. But I don't want to ignore this feeling anymore. I don't want to pretend like this is just some accident. Ethan smiled softly, stepping closer, his eyes still searching mine. Then let's stop pretending, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Let's see where this goes. For a moment, I was paralyzed by the uncertainty. But then, as I stood there, feeling the heat of his presence so close to mine, I knew I couldn't walk away. Not this time. Not when the pull between us felt this strong, this undeniable. And as much as I wanted to fight it, I realized something. I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was about to happen, but I was already in it. Just then, with everything hanging in the air between us, Ethan moved closer, his lips brushing against mine for the first time. I could feel the weight of everything we hadn't said, and as the kiss deepened, I knew things would never be the same again. The kiss was everything I hadn't expected and everything I needed all at once. It started softly, hesitant, as if neither of us were sure whether we were making a huge mistake or stepping into something we both secretly craved. Ethan's lips brushed against mine, just a whisper of contact, but the moment our lips touched, I felt a rush of emotions flood through me, desire, confusion, longing, all tangled together. I should have pulled away. I should have stopped, told him this was wrong, that this couldn't happen. But instead, I found myself leaning into the kiss, allowing myself to savor the way it felt. It wasn't just physical. It wasn't just about the heat or the intimacy of the moment, it was something deeper. Something I had been hiding from for so long. Ethan's hand slid gently to the back of my neck, pulling me closer, deepening the kiss. His fingers threaded into my hair, and the sensation sent a jolt through me. I could feel his body against mine, and for a moment, all of my doubts and fears disappeared. The only thing I could focus on was the warmth of his touch, the way his lips moved against mine. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing heavily, our foreheads resting against each other. For a brief moment, there was silence. No words were necessary, because I knew we were both feeling it, feeling the gravity of what had just happened. What was that? I asked, my voice shaky, barely above a whisper. I couldn't look him in the eye, I was still trying to process everything that had just happened. Ethan didn't pull away. He stayed close, his breath warm against my skin. I don't know, Matt, he said softly, his fingers gently brushing my cheek. But I don't think it was just a mistake. I think I've wanted this for a long time. And I'm sorry if it feels too much, too fast. But I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't pretend I didn't want you. His words hit me like a wave. I had always seen Ethan as Jason's younger brother, someone I'd known casually, never imagining anything more. But now, standing here in the bathroom, the lines between friendship and something deeper had blurred beyond recognition. I don't know what to think, I admitted, still trying to catch my breath. This is crazy, Ethan. I didn't expect this. I didn't think I'd be feeling this way. Ethan nodded slowly, his eyes locked on mine. I get it. I do. But I don't think it's wrong. I think we both felt something. And if we're being honest with ourselves, I think it's been there for a while. I didn't know how to respond to that. It wasn't that I didn't feel it too, I did. Every second of this moment, every touch, every glance, had stirred something inside me that I couldn't ignore anymore. But the situation was so complicated. This wasn't just about me and Ethan. It was about Jason, about our friendship, and about everything I'd convinced myself was simple. I took a step back, trying to clear my head. But what does this mean, Ethan? What happens now? I'm not sure I can just let everything change like this. Ethan stepped closer again, but this time, he didn't touch me. He just looked at me, searching my face for an answer. I don't know what happens next either, Matt. But I can't pretend I'm not feeling something real. I don't want to run from it anymore. His honesty was both refreshing and terrifying. I had been running from my feelings for so long, keeping everything locked away, telling myself I didn't need anything complicated. But here I was, standing in front of Ethan, who was offering me something I wasn't sure I was ready for. Something that could change everything. "I can't promise that I have all the answers," I said, my voice filled with vulnerability. "I'm scared, Ethan. Scared of what this could mean, scared of how everything could change." Ethan's gaze softened, and he gently cupped my face in his hands. "I'm scared too. But maybe we don't need all the answers. Maybe we just need to take this one step at a time, together." The weight of his words hit me hard. I could feel the tension in the air, the uncertainty of where this would go, but at that moment, I realized I wasn't as afraid as I had been before. There was something about Ethan, about what he was offering, that felt like something I couldn't walk away from. The connection between us was undeniable, and it was no longer about avoiding it. It was about embracing it. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to let go of the fear. "Okay," I said softly. "We'll take it one step at a time." Ethan's smile was all I needed to know that we were both on the same page. He leaned in, this time more confidently, and kissed me again. This time, there was no hesitation. No doubts. Just the promise of something new. When we pulled away, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight of everything I had been holding on to, the fear, the confusion, had been lifted. In that moment, I knew that whatever came next, we'd face it together. As we stood there, our bodies still close, I realized something. This wasn't just a kiss anymore. It wasn't a mistake. It was the beginning of something I couldn't undo. And for the first time, I didn't want to. The moment our lips parted, the room felt even more suffocating, but in a way that was no longer unpleasant. I could feel my heart racing, the adrenaline still rushing through my veins. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't expected him. Ethan. Jason's younger brother. The kid I had known for years but had never looked at like this. I stepped back, trying to find some space, some time to breathe and figure out what was happening. But Ethan didn't let me move too far. His eyes were locked on me, searching for something, an answer, maybe, or perhaps reassurance that this wasn't just some mistake. The uncertainty was there, but it didn't feel as overwhelming as before. There was an unspoken understanding between us now, a new layer of complexity that neither of us had expected, but both of us were fully aware of. "I never thought this would happen," I said, my voice trembling slightly as I reached for a towel, trying to cover myself up. I was embarrassed, unsure of what to do next. I didn't think I'd feel this way. Ethan stepped closer, but there was a gentleness in his movements, as though he understood my confusion. "I know," he said quietly, his voice soft but firm. "I didn't think I'd feel this way either. But I do. And I can't ignore it anymore." I looked at him, still processing the words. I had always kept my emotions hidden, locked away behind walls I'd built over the years. But with Ethan, it was different. The way he looked at me made me feel seen, vulnerable, exposed. It was terrifying, but there was something beautiful about it. "Why now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you?" I didn't even know how to finish the sentence. Why had he kissed me? Why had he come into the shower? Why had he put himself in this situation with me? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his expression softening. "Because I couldn't pretend anymore, Matt. I've wanted this for a long time, and I thought I was the only one who felt it. But after the way we looked at each other today, I couldn't keep pretending that it wasn't real." His honesty struck me. He wasn't hiding behind any walls, not like I was. Ethan wasn't afraid to admit what he felt, and there was a part of me that admired that courage, even though it terrified me. "I don't know if I can handle this," I admitted, the weight of everything sinking in. "I don't know if I can be that guy. The one who messes everything up. This could ruin everything, Ethan. I don't know how we can just walk away from this." Ethan looked at me, his eyes full of understanding, but his gaze never faltered. "I'm not asking you to change who you are, Matt. I'm not asking for something crazy. But I'm not going to lie to myself anymore. I don't want to pretend I don't feel this. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready for, but I want you to know what's in my heart. And I want you to know that I'm here, no matter what." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning, yet there was something reassuring about them. Ethan wasn't demanding anything of me. He wasn't pushing me into something I wasn't ready for. He was offering his honesty, and that honesty was all he wanted in return. I took a deep breath, looking down for a moment, trying to collect my thoughts. I had been running from this, running from what I felt, running from the connection I'd started to feel for Ethan. But now, I realized something. I couldn't keep running forever. "I don't know what this is going to look like," I finally said, looking up at him. "I don't know how we can do this without everything changing. But, my words faltered for a moment as I felt the fear slowly start to loosen its grip on me. But I'm willing to try. If you are? Ethan smiled, and for the first time in the last few minutes, I saw the lightness return to his eyes. He stepped closer, but this time, he didn't push me. He didn't crowd me. He simply looked at me with those eyes that held more honesty than I had ever seen, and nodded. I don't need anything more than this, Matt, he said softly. I just need you to trust me. Trust that whatever happens next, I'm in this with you. The weight in my chest seemed to lighten, just a little. It wasn't gone, but for the first time, it felt manageable. I wasn't facing this alone anymore. And maybe that was the most important thing. As Ethan reached for me again, this time with a sense of quiet determination, I realized something. Maybe this wasn't just about a kiss. Maybe it was about everything that had been left unsaid for far too long. The air felt thick with uncertainty as I stood there, facing Ethan, trying to come to terms with everything that had just happened. My heart was still racing from the kiss, the sudden emotional floodgate that had opened between us. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't expected him, Jason's younger brother, to be the one to make me question everything I thought I knew about myself. Ethan's eyes were filled with something I couldn't place, something raw, something honest. And I was scared. Scared of what I was feeling, scared of how quickly everything was moving, but mostly scared of the fact that I didn't want to stop it. I need to know where we stand, Matt, Ethan said softly, stepping a little closer. His voice was steady, but I could see the vulnerability hidden beneath it. He wasn't pushing, but he wasn't holding back, either. I know this is all new for you. Hell, it's new for me, too. But I can't keep pretending that this, he gestured between us, the air thick with unspoken words, isn't happening. We can't just keep ignoring it. The words felt like a punch to my gut. Ethan wasn't backing down. He was standing there, waiting for me to make the next move. He was waiting for me to decide what happened next. And the truth was, I wasn't sure. I had no idea what to do with these feelings that had been building up. I didn't know what this meant, but I couldn't deny it anymore. It was real. And it was happening. I don't know what to say, I admitted, my voice strained. I don't know if I'm ready to go there. I don't know how to even process all of this. But I can't just pretend like it didn't happen. I felt it, too. And I'm scared of what it means. Of what it could mean for us. Ethan took a step forward, his gaze never leaving mine. His hand reached out, gently resting on my arm. I could feel the warmth of his touch through the fabric of my shirt, and it sent a shiver down my spine. It's okay to be scared, he said, his voice soft but firm. I'm scared too. But maybe that's what makes this real. Maybe the fear means something. Maybe it means we're both ready to take this step. His words hung in the air between us, and for a moment, I was quiet, just absorbing everything. I had always been the type to keep my emotions buried, to hide from anything that made me feel vulnerable. But now, with Ethan standing in front of me, offering me something I wasn't sure I could handle, I realized something. Maybe vulnerability was the only way forward. I don't know if I can just throw everything I've known out the window, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. I've spent so long keeping everything in check, keeping my feelings in control. But when I look at you, I don't know how to fight it anymore. Ethan nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. You don't have to fight it, Matt. You don't have to have all the answers. But what I'm asking is that you give me a chance. Give us a chance. We don't have to figure everything out today. We don't have to label it or make it fit into some box. We just have to be honest with ourselves. The honesty in his voice made something inside me shift. Maybe I didn't need to have everything figured out. Maybe the most important thing was just to let go of the fear, to stop trying to control everything. I wasn't sure if I was ready to jump into the unknown, but I knew one thing, I didn't want to push Ethan away. I didn't want to lose whatever this was between us. Okay, I said, the word feeling like a weight lifting off my chest. Okay. We'll figure it out. Together. Ethan's face broke into a smile, and something inside me melted. He stepped closer, pulling me into another hug, this time tighter, more confident. His arms wrapped around me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I wasn't alone. Whatever happened next, we would face it together. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realized that this was just the beginning. The beginning of something I hadn't even known I wanted, but now that it was here, I couldn't deny that it felt right. The uncertainty was still there, but it wasn't as suffocating anymore. It felt like it was something we could work through together, as long as we were honest and willing to face the truth of what we felt. But as I pulled back from the hug, I couldn't help but feel like we had just crossed a line. We had made a choice, and now, everything was different. The question was, could we handle the consequences of what we'd just started? The weight of the moment hung between us, thick and suffocating. I could feel my heart beating in my chest, louder with every breath I took. We had crossed the line, no turning back now. But there was something about Ethan, something about this moment that made it feel like the right thing, even though my mind screamed at me that it was wrong. We pulled away from the hug, but I couldn't shake the closeness between us. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, too. Everything I had been running from, all the feelings I had suppressed for so long, seemed to crash into me all at once. Ethan stepped back, giving me space, but his eyes never left mine. "You know," he began, his voice softer now, more vulnerable than before, "I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. But I wasn't sure how you'd feel. I wasn't sure if I should say it." I didn't say anything, just stood there, my chest tightening. I could feel it in my bones. This was the moment. Whatever came next, whatever we were about to say to each other, would change everything. He took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. "Matt, I care about you. More than just as Jason's brother, more than just some friend. I've felt this way for a long time now. And I couldn't keep pretending like it didn't mean anything." His words hit me harder than I thought they would. It wasn't that I hadn't known. Somewhere deep inside, I had always known that Ethan wasn't just a little brother to me. He had become something else over time, someone I couldn't stop thinking about, even if I tried to. But hearing him say it, hearing him admit it aloud, made everything feel so much more real, so much more dangerous. "I never thought about it like that," I said quietly, my voice betraying the emotion I was trying to hold back. "I never saw you like that. Not until now. And that scares me. Because I don't know what to do with these feelings. I don't know what to do with what's happening between us." Ethan nodded, understanding in his eyes. He stepped closer again, his hand finding mine. The touch was gentle, yet full of intent. "I know. But I don't think we have to know what's going to happen next. We don't have to have everything figured out. All I'm asking for is a chance. A chance for us to see where this could go." I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the weight of his words settling over me. Ethan wasn't asking for anything complicated. He wasn't asking me to change my life. He was simply asking me to take a chance on us. On something real. Something we both felt. "I'm scared too," I admitted, my voice thick with the rawness of everything I was feeling. "I've always kept my distance from things like this. I've never let myself feel anything this intense before. But I don't want to walk away from this." "From you?" Ethan smiled softly, his thumb brushing over the back of my hand. "You don't have to walk away. We don't have to make everything perfect right away. But I know what I feel for you, Matt. And I can't keep pretending I don't." The words seemed to hang in the air, and for a moment, I thought about everything we had both been avoiding. The awkwardness, the fear of messing things up, the guilt of breaking boundaries. But none of it seemed to matter anymore. What mattered was that this was real. What mattered was that I was ready, finally, to stop running from what I had been feeling. Without thinking, I reached up and cupped his face in my hands. His eyes widened, a small surprised look crossing his face, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned into my touch, his forehead resting against mine. I could feel his breath on my skin, and I realized that this wasn't just about the physical attraction anymore. It was about trust, about something deeper that we hadn't even begun to fully understand. "I don't know where this goes, Ethan," I said softly, my voice trembling, "but I want to find out. I want to see where this leads." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, as though letting the words sink in. Then, with a soft smile, he leaned in, capturing my lips with his once more. This kiss was different than the first. It wasn't filled with confusion or hesitation, it was filled with everything we had been hiding from, our desires, our fears, our need for each other. The kiss deepened, and for the first time, I didn't feel scared. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. Ethan wasn't just some reckless impulse, he was someone who wanted to explore this with me, someone who saw me for more than just a friend, just a brother. He saw me for who I truly was. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathless, but neither of us seemed eager to break the moment. We were standing there, not knowing what would happen next, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of what this meant, or what might come of it. What mattered was that, for once, I wasn't alone in this. Ethan was with me, and that was enough. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew this was only the beginning. There were still questions, still uncertainties, but one thing was clear, we were in this together. And that, more than anything else, felt like enough. The tension in the room had shifted, like a storm that had passed and left nothing but calm in its wake. I was still standing in front of Ethan, trying to process everything that had just happened. The kiss, the confession, the vulnerability. It was all so new to me, but it didn't feel wrong. Not anymore. Ethan's hand still rested on my arm, warm and reassuring, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the weight of my usual walls. I didn't feel the need to hide from anything, because with Ethan, it felt like I didn't have to. He looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race, but there was no judgment in his eyes. Just understanding. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I nodded, but my throat felt tight. I hadn't expected to be this open, this vulnerable. But standing there with him, I realized how much I had been holding back in my life, how much I had been afraid to confront. And now, in this moment, with Ethan, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. "I'm better than okay," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what happens next, but right now, I feel right. Like this is what I was supposed to feel all along." Ethan's smile softened, and he took a step closer, wrapping his arms around me again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I stepped into his embrace, letting him pull me close, feeling the heat of his body against mine. For once, everything felt like it was in its place. "We don't have to figure it all out right now," Ethan said, his voice low, his lips brushing my ear as he spoke. "We'll take it one day at a time. But I want this, Matt. I want us." I pulled back slightly to look at him, his eyes searching mine for any hesitation. But there was none. I didn't feel hesitant anymore. I wasn't afraid of what could go wrong. I wasn't afraid of the messiness of it all. Because right now, I didn't need all the answers. I just needed to be present, with him. "I want this too," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know where it leads, but I know I want to find out with you." He smiled, a soft, content smile that made my heart ache in the best way. We stood there in silence for a few moments, just holding each other, letting the weight of the situation settle between us. It wasn't perfect. We didn't have all the answers, and we knew that things wouldn't always be easy. But we were together, and that felt like enough for now. Slowly, we pulled apart, still holding hands, and walked over to the living room. The house felt quieter now, more intimate, and everything outside of this moment seemed far away. We didn't need anyone else's approval, we didn't need anyone else's understanding. This was our story, and we were ready to write the next chapter together. As we sat down on the couch, Ethan leaned his head on my shoulder, his hand still in mine. I looked at him, at the way he fit so perfectly against me, and realized that this was just the beginning. The beginning of something I had been too afraid to even acknowledge until now. "We've got this," Ethan murmured, his voice warm and confident. "Whatever comes next, we've got each other." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. As I sat there with Ethan, my heart finally at ease, I realized that sometimes, the hardest things in life were the most worthwhile. And no matter what the future held, I was ready to face it, with him by my side.